Cursing's stupid, I'm gonna tell you why in this video. And not just because it's forbidden in every single heavenly religion, like my religion, and probably yours as well, but because it's stupid both logically and rationally. So stick around if you're interested in not making a fool out of yourself. The story begins with a teenager in high school. He's cool, you know. He's not the most popular, but not a loner. Just a typical average guy. He's turned 16 and he's seen his mustache growing, so he believes he's a man already. So one day, he was going for the lunch break as usual with both of his male friends, and suddenly, something quite unusual happened. He accidentally bumped into someone. He turned to see who it was, and almighty God, it was the other cool guy, but unlike him, he's popular. Add to that they can't stand each other. The popular kid was standing with his friends, males and females. So will he let it slide? Of course not. So he cursed him publicly. Now what? You got offended, right? Then defend yourself. Now he has to reply back. So he cursed him even worse. So they started cursing back and forth and trash talking to each other. I'm gonna make your face unrecognizable, homie.
Say less, bro. Cause it looks like we have a mutual plan.
You can definitely use a nose job.
And of course, the other kids were hyping them until the adults intruded and broke off that mess. Take a breath. What did you get from the story? Okay, let's change that question. What did he gain? If you said respect, you've lost some of its point just by saying that. The answer is nothing. Yeah, of course he had the right to do so because the popular kid started it for such a normal accident. But was it really a smart thing to do? Well, technically yes, and no. Let me tell you why. Yes, because he didn't let him go with that level of offense. Especially when we remember that we're talking about a high school environment where there's a lot of bullying and everything usually sticks. So taking an immediate action was decent from him to implement. But my problem is with the action, or I should say the reaction that he chose. You see, there is always a gap between the action and the reaction. That's when you think. So you don't want to freeze in that moment. But also you want to choose the best alternative. He didn't freeze and he did something. So props. But was it effective enough? Certainly not. He might have avoided the social consequences of just taking it as a champ and acting as the bigger person while being harassed and probably even bullied later on. But I consider cursing useless. Why? Because there is simply no point. First of all, it's not even effective. We live in a world where friends joke by cursing each other's moms. So he's heard it too many times probably, and he's used to it. You might say the context is different. And yeah, you're right. But it doesn't matter. If he can't joke with it, it's probably not gonna hurt his feelings that much. You might get him a bit angry and that's it. The second reason, basically it's not true. Let's take it to the extreme. You're a white male walking peacefully in the street and some random white person passing calls you the N-word. Will you be offended? Is that even a real question?
Unexceptional, nigga.
I know that a lot of white people take offense for others, which is stupid, but I'm not asking about that. See, the answer is obviously no. Like, why would I? I'm not black. So let's take the same concept and apply it to that type of situation. When I say you're ugly and your mom works as a prostitute, well, you know your mom is a respectable housewife and she looks pretty. And you're her son. You've got her genes. And if you're not handsome, then you're not ugly too. So when you really break it down, it sounds silly, doesn't it? It's like the other person is telling you lies and you're blindly buying them and reacting based on that. So what should I do when something similar happens? Because of course it can happen anywhere with any form. I just picked up the school example because it resonates. Well, to answer your question, I have to ask you another question first. What effect are you trying to make? If your answer is to just piss him off and disrespect him on a superficial level, then my answer isn't for you. But if your answer is to hurt and humiliate him in the most deep way you could think of, then you're my guy. Look, as simple as this might sound, however, it's true. Nothing hurts more than the truth. That's why I said cursing is not effective. Enough at least. Because most of it is just straight up nonsense. So forget about that. The strategy that I'm giving you is effective and efficient if done properly. And it works extremely well when you know that person well. It starts with seeing the things that he's insecure about, even for 1%, and exposing these things in front of him. And if there's people around, even better. No one likes being exposed, but don't do it in a childish way where you almost start screaming like a mad girl and say,
Well, look at this and look at that.
You gotta do it in the most offensive, cold, blunt way you could pull off. Speaking of which, when I was telling you the story, I added something spicy.
You can definitely use a nose job.
Assuming that he has a big nose that ruins his face, don't say look at your big nose or what a big nose. Nah, Do it smartly. And a lot of you are good at this already, but that's just level 1. Level 2 is to stare at his soul and see his darkest places and secrets that he doesn't want anyone to know about. If you're good at basic people observation, which I assume most of you aren't, it'll be easy for you to pick on them.
But what if I don't know the person that well?
Easy. Remain calm as I told you in the previous video and act cold. If you want to add some flavor, do it. Remember when I told you nothing hurts more than the truth? Well, nothing pisses people off more than a cold attitude. What if he really got on your nerves? Then making him get a nosebleed might work. Let him check what his blood tastes like. Probably like rust. And before you go, you don't need to do this every time you encounter such a scenario. If it's not worth it, let it slide. Like a random person in the street. There is no consequences here, and there is no hard feelings. Maybe he's having a bad day. You don't know. But if you believe it's necessary, then don't hesitate. So now you know the answer to your question. I've given you more effective and even more efficient ways to act. Cursing loudly and threatening each other is an act of cowardness. If any of you really wants to fight, you'd have squared up and done it without all that hassle. Don't act tough, be tough.